interesting stuff. I just wanted to check if you are aware of this. Oops, that's not what I wanted to show. Just 1 second. It's always interesting how Zoom does the screen sharing. Now I need to find you again. Where are you?
I don't know. I'm here somewhere in cyberspace. Do you want us to wave?
Yeah, I lost it in all the open screens somehow.
Well, tell us.
So I ran into a very interesting, now here you are, found you again, into a very interesting initiative, which you probably know, where is a conference in April. It's funny enough, since I'm Austrian, it's somewhere in Austria. It's a conference basically trying to get together with different, let's say, initiatives, quite a big group of people.
I know it, yeah.
Lucas knows about it.
Yeah, there's a Telegram channel about this refi, and now they're also teaming up with something called All4Climate. It's also like crypto Web3 based initiative. I think for this one, I don't know if it's really possible to participate because they had an application for 60 people in their first round of people in refi. But I'm part of the Telegram and I know some of the people there, but I don't know if, I think I submitted to participate there, but I don't know if it's on.
Yeah, I just ran into it and I thought it's interesting. I was not sure if you're the whole refi. I then looked at the refi say website. There's quite a lot of initiatives and companies and groups active. So this just wanted to share this with you.
I think we have to bring discussion with these guys as well if we are to create these principles. Like there are many groups populating everywhere, and I think it would be really great to have a kind of like a stakeholder consultation. So I don't know how to do it on a proper methodological way, like like type of surveys or working group consultations. But it would be great to make sure we represent different players in the ecosystem and have their voice heard to set the principles, because I think that would make it really credible then. So yeah, but thank you so much for the
stay in touch with us. I know you have to go,
yes.
But stay connected. We've been working on circles and other ways of hearing voices, inclusivity. It's not just about crypto anymore. It's about so much more. So stay connected. Yeah.
And continue the great work. Bye-bye, guys.
Right. Thank you. Thanks for being here, MJ. I did start the recording, you guys. And Heath is here, and we've got our Miro board expert. Where did you go? Tivo, there you are. Miro, and I've got Miro here, so I'm going to really get messed up. We have a Miro board link in the chat. Yoram, go ahead.
No, we start calling it Tivo board, I think. That's
Tivo board. Okay, yeah. Miro, I'm sorry. I hope that works.
But we're also working with Miro, so we need to create a new name then. So
yeah, Tivo board. Let's go for it. So we've got Tivo here to start helping us work on this. And I think, Alex, you've used the word blockchain for good. How do we create a framework around that? And Tivo, I assume you have a blank one, correct? Blank? No, you've got something.
I started from blank, then people started asking questions. So I did put some notes down already. I shared the motherboard link again.
Perfect. Would you like to share screen?
Okay. I think it will be good, Alex, if you are okay. It will be good to have, in Melanie, if you're okay, that Alex will give a little bit an intro about that from his side.
Perfect.
And his mind was sitting, and we'll start working on that.
And as you can see, sorry, Tivo just works in the background and does all this. So please feel free to jump in if you know how to use Miro and add things. Okay, go for it.
Alex, is that fine? You're with us?
Yes, I'm here. So just a quick question before we start. Is this the first time that we use a Miro board with C4C? Or are there like kind of, one mirror board per weekly meeting? Like, how does that work?
We're working on that. This is our first time at a meetup, and we're going to probably follow Gimbal Labs, where they have a Miro board for each meeting. We haven't figured out how to connect them, but yes, you have an idea?
It was just a question. Thank you.
Okay.
So
you're the first one. So
let me see if I can turn my camera on. I was having some troubles earlier today. Can you hear me fine?
Yeah.
Cool. So hi, everyone. I'm Alex. I work at the Cardano Foundation, primarily on the partnership side of stuff, and particularly focusing on impacts and trying to work with our staff across different functions to see, what can we do when it comes to impact at the kind of broad level of this. And I think one thing I realized getting into this position is, what does impact mean on Cardano? What does impact mean for blockchain more generally? That kind of thought got reinforced when I spoke with Lucas, and he mentioned his principles for blockchain, sustainable blockchain use. And essentially the way he initially shared it with me, which I think could be quite a useful resource, and I'll share it in the chat, is he said, look, let's take a look at what these digital principles, those principles for digital development are kind of doing, and can we do something similar for blockchain more generally, and what role can Cardano play? So this idea has kind of gained quite a bit of traction within the foundation, and I'm really kind of pushing there to see where we can add value. And so this kind of started this conversation of what does it mean to have impact on the blockchain, Cardano, etc. And then I spoke with Raz, Yoram, and a bunch of other people involved in the kind of impact blockchain Cardano space. And it became clear that there's no standard definition, whether we're talking about, I don't know if you follow what's the mission-driven pools and all of that. So defining what a mission-driven pool is, whether it is donating a certain portion of your profits or versus revenue, and all these kind of things. So very kind of technical aspects of this. And then to a broader level, what does it mean to have, a sustainable blockchain, where we're talking about, environmental perspective, social perspective, governance perspectives. We have the framework of the SDGs. We also have donut economics, and I came across this really interesting notion, but I can't seem to find it in and amongst the many tabs I've opened today. But this, so inner development goals. So I thought this was really cool. I still haven't really kind of looked at, what precisely this is, but I thought that this is also kind of an interesting thing where it's about also personal development and an ethos that is necessary to achieve these things. Peter?
Oh, sorry, I was saying good morning to my family. I didn't know that I was not muted. Sorry about that.
Good morning, Peter.
Good morning, everyone.
And so yeah, so there are these kind of questions that popped up, and then I started talking to one of my colleagues about how would we tackle the SDGs, and are these relevant? Some people in the community said, hell yeah, these are super relevant. Others have told me, look, a lot of our community has, some antagonism towards the UN that they view as, perhaps one of the institutions that we're trying to render more efficient or replace, etc. And so this kind of made us ask the question and test our assumptions as to, should we just go with SDGs? Should we just go with ESG measurements when we're looking at impact? And what we've realized is maybe we have to kind of figure it out as a community, because that's, who we are, and that's what makes the Cardano fabric really strong. And so an initial approach that we thought was quite interesting, purely from an SDG perspective, you know, not talking about how we combine frameworks yet. I'm not an expert in the SDGs, and I think there's a road and there's some kind of process that we need to kind of follow. And this is really where, you know, everybody here comes in, and the broader community as well, in terms of defining what this is. The one approach that was really interesting came out of this document I just posted in the chat. And if you navigate to page 10, there is a wonderful diagram. Maybe I can actually put it onto the Miro board, actually. Let's see. That was designed in like 2015, that kind of spoke to situating the SDGs within the food security network. And let me see, I'm just trying to screenshot this and add it to the Miro board, but I'm kind of struggling. Let's see. Oh, there we go. So if you see on the Miro board, just kind of to the left of TiVo, there we go. So that aspect is pretty interesting, because we're wondering, we're kind of looking at designing an educational program with a third party and wanting to kind of educate about the SDGs and blockchain. And so this is one of the kind of approaches that we were thinking of, is first kind of tackling issues around planetary boundaries, so the healthy environment part that you see, and then prioritizing that first, and then kind of moving on to the societal and economy type things. But of course, you know, having these as positive externalities of the work that we'd be doing when we focus on the 4 goals that are foundational according to this diagram. And this got us thinking about, okay, well, if already with the SDGs, there's modalities with which you could conceptualize them. How do we conceptualize sustainability as a blockchain, right? And specifically the Cardano blockchain, which is pretty much unique in the fact that it is UTXO and proof of stake, etc. So really, I'm sorry if this is kind of like unstructured, and I wish I could give you a bit more of a structured approach to this, but really this has kind of been the broad ideas, you know, that we've been playing around with, that I've shared with a couple of people already, and which I think could be a valuable starting point to the conversation, and getting your input on this would really, really be valuable. So thank you.
Wow. Kind of blowing me away. First of all, we need to be connected to whoever you're doing with the education piece. We're already working on something like that on the side. It seems to be a big, you know, we have a lot of Peter's here, so I can't say off chain. So
you can say whatever you want, Melanie. Don't mind me.
People that aren't familiar with the blockchain, you know, tree huggers, environmentalists, we don't know how, what we see as Bitcoin as being energy consumptive and a big problem, and virtual, it's not real, we can't put our fingers in it. So we're working on that education piece little by little. If something's already going on, we'd love to be part of that as well. There's a few members that are working specifically on that.
That's fantastic, Melanie. Thanks for raising that. And I think, you know, if I could take a look at what you're working on as well, would be really helpful. We're having a scoping discussion with this partner very soon. And the approach that we were really looking to bring into this is the one that we used with Veritree and climate neutral Cardano, because we really saw the value that our community members can bring in terms of their knowledge and insights where we just don't have them as the foundation, where we might be specialists from a technical point of view, at least the dev guys. On my hand, it's more kind of a generalist type of approach. And so we really depend on the knowledge of our community to do this kind of things. And so the approach we want to have with this partner is to put together some form of advisory group that comes from different parts of the Cardano community, whether it be devs and all that, but also people in C4C, etc., non-technical, technical people that can give their insights into what would work best. This program would be typically geared at youth, so between the ages of 15 to 25, but I'm hoping to push that number up for youth to 35, one, so I can feel included, but also because that bracket is really broad in terms of people starting their careers, people starting their professional development. It doesn't just stop at 25. A lot of people just finish their higher education if they do that at that age. So the approach would be, as soon as we've scoped out the first iteration of what this potential program would look like, test it with a focus group that would come from the community, and C4C is definitely a place where we hope to bring some of the members on board.
Perfect. That sounds awesome. Thank you for that. Anybody else? Anything else coming up? That's a lot of information.
I'll just join in or just respond a little bit, because it's actually, I like that graph a lot, Alex. Thank you for that, because I always struggled with the SDGs looking so separate in the general graphs. And actually they're all interconnected, and climate change is sort of having an impact on all of it anyway. And that's actually a really cool graph to take into account. Sort of, you're basically on the base there with climate change, and that makes a lot of sense. And the education absolutely has to happen. So yeah, I think several groups, our groups, here and 360 as well, and so we all talked about expert sort of input versus community. So I think it's key if we can actually try out various different things and learn from it. There are probably advantages to each of these platforms, and then we can have an idea maybe in a year's time sort of what works really well. And also, if probably like everything here, we need to have a decentralization, so we might need different platforms anyway, with different aims and goals. So it's quite cool. I mean, I like that. So thanks for sharing that.
It makes it look possible to deal with too. You can see a chunk. Well, there, I can do that. It's possible if we break this down into our own specialties and get working together on this, keep working on it. It's very doable. Thibault, thank you for what you're doing there. I just always amazed. It's Simon, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to chip in. I spotted Thibault's put it on the Miro board. So I've been doing some work with some other guys talking about, could we build a system around the donut economics model, where you use that at a local community level to sort of assess and monitor what's going on and try and improve it. So you basically take each ring of the donut and say, well, are we doing well in education? How can we improve education? So building a platform that lets you roll that out, so the same platform can be used everybody anywhere in the world, and then you can start sort of benchmarking against each other. So you can see the town next to you is doing better, and you're thinking, well, how have they managed to do it when we've got the same budget, similar prosperity, but they're really doing well in their education and we're not doing so well. So it's whether it would work, I don't know, and I haven't conceptualized what that platform would be yet, but it did seem sort of a model that would work, rather than just looking at money, whether you're doing well. It gives you all the different indicators, doesn't it?
Yeah, money is not the end all, and it causes a lot more problems than it solves. We have to shift our value from making money to what really counts. Definitely a lot of conversations around that happening.
Yeah, I dropped it in because probably most of those categories on the SDG sort of one way or another overlaps with what's on the donut economics model as well. So I'm going to go and read more about the SDG now to see if that's got more answers that I need.
Perfect.
Yeah, I wonder how would you measure all of that stuff? Like, it would be nice to like see you take, okay, climate change, and you see numbers, and then I take my own mini proposals, I see numbers, but these are also arbitrary, so you kind of impossible to even measure anything.
Yeah, I can't say for all of them, but I've been looking at what metrics are. I'm based in the UK, and we've got the Office of National Statistics, and luckily they tend to bring everything down to town level. So I've got like figures now of how many cars we've got, how many of those cars are diesel, how much we spend in business on energy across electric, gas and oil. So those figures are there. And obviously, if you want to get to a climate neutral, you've got to get oil, gas and coal use down to zero. So you can use that figure to say, well, we're burning 4,000 terawatt hours of gas per year at the moment. How do we get that back to zero? And then you start chopping it down. Because one of the things I've found is at an individual level, you struggle to see what you can do. And at national level, it's hard to make any difference. But if you bring it to community level, you've got a bunch of people who are walking distance away from you. Can you start sort of collectively working out what we can do at our region? So like you could see yourself building a community solar farm or something like that, and battery storage to go with it, or bringing in a leasing system for cars where the taxi drivers get lower rate leasing and then they get sold onto the local community afterwards. So it's that local community areas where I think the focus should be, because people get to know each other face to face, and it's linking in what national data you've got. And I'm sure there's gaps in what's on the model versus what I've seen so far, but I'm starting to try and map each ring of the donut and each segment onto, is there existing data out there that we can measure? So it's going to be a long ask. But
well, it's an
eventually.
interesting use case too, and would love to follow what you're doing, Simon, because you know, if you create a template like this, we can take it elsewhere, and we've created solutions worldwide from a local situation.
What I've done today is I've finally made a decision. I need to get out of my day job and commit myself full time to this. So I've been looking at what funding's available, and I've found a good couple of funds to fund me giving up my day job. What I'm looking to do is, with our local environment group, is set up like a template. So we're going to apply to the lottery funding in the UK to get a community emergency centre, climate emergency centre set up, and basically try and create a sort of a factorised process, a production line for how you take a town from where they are now to go into carbon zero. So everything we produce, I want it to be repeatable elsewhere. That's the kind of approach I'm taking.
Fantastic.
So we'll see if we get there, but that's the goal.
Beautiful. Heinz, thank you for waiting. You've had your hand up for a while.
I'm always patient. So just wanted to share, when we talk about blockchain for good, that's not necessarily intention with blockchain for good business. I not long ago, I was, as you know, leading digital transformation at AB InBev, one of the large companies worldwide. And there's two elements that drives companies to do good. This is on one hand to get environmental footprint measured into the balance sheets, so that it starts to be like any other consumption, like any other thing, starts to be measured and become part of the success determination. And the second really big thing is reputation. So what do consumers, what do the customers and consumers think? And companies like AB InBev, they really mean it. They are no longer reluctant. There are, for example, carbon neutral goals now for 20. It doesn't sound very ambitious, 2035, but it's a huge company and it's a huge energy, let's say consumer is the wrong word, converter. So but there is really potential also not only on let's say community level, but also on the large corporations. I think it's a kind of inflection point has been crossed. Companies really want to do it. And blockchain, I'm still in touch with AB InBev, and also with there are projects now starting for started out with registering production for tax stamps, but now they noticed it's cool. It can be transparently measured, can be tracked and traced, and blockchain is slowly getting onto the table of serious discussions.
Nice. Definitely. Traceability, right? As a consumer,
Absolutely. So,
as a consumer, I want to know where things are coming from. Are they done ethically? What's my impact?
right. And you know, not long ago, it was a domain of IBMs and Hyperledger and permissioned private blockchain. But now the companies notice that the real power of blockchain comes from connecting from farm to consumer and having a lot of, let's say, commercially non-linked partners contributing to such a complete network. And this is where blockchain, of course, it has a huge possibility for promoting, for not only showing data and facts, but also have a running nice consumer engagement programs and returnable bottles. So it's a huge opportunity, or sports sponsoring. So it's unbelievable potential behind, and that's slowly, I think, it's understood.
Dimitri and then Alex.
One moment.
Dimitri, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
So, so the question was, how do we measure? And so I'm not used to thinking of these high level kind of things, but in our context, we do a lot of practical measurements, like, for example, how many food packets were delivered, or how many were picked up, how many kilos of food was saved from the landfill, or how many kilos of slaughter waste was saved, how many kilos of pet food was distributed, or on a different project, it might be how many kilos of plastic waste was picked up from the beach, or how many square feet of beach were cleaned today, how many people came. So, I mean, we have so many projects going on here, and the people here are used to thinking in very concrete, very ground level terms. So therefore, we don't have any difficulty in terms of measuring. Once we break it down into project by project, we find people who are passionate about it, and then fix a date and get on with it. So the metrics are relatively easy to figure out, and I've figured out a way to kind of track it, which I discussed with Yoram a couple of weeks back about using NFTs generated at point of pickup and point of delivery. So certain ways like that, we are going to use NFTs to track the entire project from start to finish, and thereby have a very reliable way for people to, anyone can go and look into it and see exactly what was done and who did it and what time it was done, and with how did the beneficiary get the benefit of it. Or if it's plastic waste, like how much of, how many acres were cleaned on a particular day, how many hours did it take to clean it, how many people, roughly how much of waste did each person collect, so on and so forth. So we found it quite practical to make measurements like that. And even for that, since you all brought up about the coral reef thing, I just want to share that we are doing coral reef replanting off the shores of Colombo and Hikkadua. Hikkadua is an area where the coral reefs were devastated, both before the tsunami and because of the tsunami. So a lot of replanting is happening on those areas. Another big area where things are happening is mangroves, where the mangroves, where they were, people were saved from the tsunami simply because the mangroves were there to protect them as a buffer against the waves. And where the mangroves had been removed by the people, they regret it now because so many of the people died as a result of no protection. So those communities are coming together to replant mangroves just in case in future similar event happens, so that the mangroves are there to protect. So in those scenarios, we have, how many trees were planted, how many people came, and here it's called Shramadane. So Shrama means labor, Dana means donating. So what happens is a community comes together and donates their labor in return for the benefit that they are going to get for it. So this whole concept of Shramadana is a community owning the project so that they don't pay for labor, but they do the labor themselves. So like that, a lot of things get done here.
Dimitri, thank you.
Yeah.
You are like this heartbeat of what's going on in Sri Lanka, and all the information you have can be over. I just want to back up. You mentioned a term, donating labor. Can you put that, can you type that in the chat? I need that term for something I'm doing.
Yeah, I can do that. I'll do it right now.
And I'm sorry to cut you off. We've got Alexander and Raz holding up their hand. Their arms are gonna fall asleep pretty soon. Dimitri, are you done? Is that okay? Okay, Alex, you go ahead. Sharma.
Thanks, Melanie, and thanks, Dimitri. Initially, I was going to raise my hand to respond to Heinz, but I just want to touch on what you mentioned about measurement. I took a course last semester because I am wrapping up my master's right now. And I took a course with somebody that's been involved in impact investing in Geneva for quite a while. And it was pretty interesting I'm going to try to find the slide, but essentially it showed all the different SDGs and the level to which impact investors are willing to invest, even, not even impact investors, sustainable finance investors. And the whole spectrum of that is a pretty interesting conversation to have. But essentially, the ones that weren't really financed were the SDGs that were the most difficult to measure. And one of these, which is kind of critical to our existence on this planet, was life in the seas, because of how vast these places are and how difficult how difficult it is for us to kind of measure some of these things. So working on these aspects is really, really important. But to go back to what Heinz was saying about how these larger corporates and organizations are kind of seeing the light when it comes to what blockchain could potentially offer as a solution to some of the digital transformation, some of their sustainable transformation challenges. I'd like to kind of go a little bit even beyond just the technology aspects of things, because often when we speak to some of these groups, as the foundation, there's always this question about, why should we use a public permissionless blockchain like Cardano, as opposed to something that might be public permissioned or private permissioned, when you go all the way to Hyperledger and Corda, etc. And, being a part of this kind of community and seeing the power of the community that we have here on Cardano, that exists, across the crypto sphere, is really something that is a unique selling point for public permissionless platforms, purely because of the collective intelligence that you have and the ability to augment whatever work you might be doing. And I'm just thinking this in terms of how companies started viewing Instagram influencers, for example, as some of their main marketing channels. Some of their, I mean that by in terms of kind of data analysis, but also in terms of selling and kind of pushing some kind of narratives and messages across. And I think there's a very interesting aspect to look into here, because we're not only just a conduit as a community, we're not only a conduit to sell things, but really a conduit for ideas. And this incredible feedback loop, which we've started to test out, and we've seen work really well when it comes to Veritry, for example. But I think as this progresses, and the more we can show the value of what it means to have an engaged crypto community, work with your blockchain efforts as a large multinational, I think we could get into some really interesting territory for that feedback loop. So that's my TED talk. Thanks.
Thanks, Alex. Raz, you're up.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, so many really, really incredible ideas being shared here. Just wanted to touch on a few of the points from Dimitri and Alexander as well. with regards to education and impact measurement. So I shared a few links in the chat, which are tools made from the Cardano AIM team in our effort to try and contribute to collecting data and helping to spotlight the projects that are actually having an impact, have been funded, and are seeking to make some kind of impact in an SDG sense. Now, beyond, of course, the SDG framework, we have all kinds of frameworks out there, all kinds of ways of measuring impact. Dimitri shared how how his communities are measuring impact on the ground, and what I believe is, and echoing what you're saying, Alexander, is as a community, I think what's of immense value is this collective intelligence, and if we can all come together to share how we're measuring things, how we're impacting things, and bring this into a kind of accessible format, where I see education as the key here. I think that's where we can really have this ripple effect of catalyzing immense change, which is needed, given the climate emergency that we're all in right now. And with my background in education and coming into this space and seeing the immense potential and revolutionary change that this technology can offer the world, and it's not, we're not just talking in abstract terms here. These projects are alive all over the world, beyond Cardano as well. And what we really need as a community, I think, is to bring those stories to light, to inspire others to see that there is hope to be had, and projects to be part of. And we all have our unique skill sets and talents. So what I think is wonderful about this meeting right now is we're bringing it to life. This Cardano4Climate group is testament to that. And so with Sustainable Ada, with Cole, we're making our contribution to the space to try and help in education, but even with Project Catalyst, that's also a very revolutionary way to bring great minds together and to demonstrate this sense of community validation of projects and treasury funding to projects. And so I'm really excited to look at the results coming up, and yeah, hopefully we see all those incredible projects that would really be able to have a greater impact if they had the funding. And so just wanted to share that.
Let's work on that collaboration, because fund aid is upon us, and this is the plan, that we're not in competition with each other. We're going to try and figure out and join forces and connect. You mentioned stories. We are writing history right now by putting all these stories together in an encyclopedia, in a book, in one place. And we're going to start seeing the education piece around environment come together, traceability come together, all different things, impact, ways of measuring it, ways of balancing out volunteers. We've got all these pieces starting to come together. And if we bring them together, we're going to do it in Fund 8. This is coming together. Climate change, the collaboration. Climate change, the cooperation. Tivo, Christian, then Peter. Thank you for waiting. Do you see what Tivo's doing here, you guys? Like, now you know why we call it Tivo board.
Annoying. Zoom hides my mute. I had a question. How do you compare different measurements between projects under the same category? So when I pointed out, like, how do you measure them, what I actually was thinking about, okay, so you are like comparing how many cars you release, which is electrical. It has impact on the carbon, but he is working on, I don't know, he's grooming horses for the so different persons. Also a bit of electrical, but they kind of categorize under the same thing. maybe, okay, maybe they have to be technical, but you get the idea of like, they are totally different and they have different values. So how do you compare that? Or we kind of don't compare it at all and just say that, yes, this we must do, and compare to everybody else who's doing exactly the same thing. You are at that level compared to them, and gives, yeah. And so these are my two ideas, and I want to hear what you guys think about comparing these measurements.
Mm-hmm. Anybody want to pipe up about that, comparing measurements?
Yeah, I would like to say something on that. So I would like to say a somewhat different view, that it's not sometimes a good idea to compare, because comparison can lead to all sorts of either feeling of better than or not as good as, neither of which I think are suitable for projects of this nature. But instead, what we should do is look at in terms of an end goal and how closer we are to accomplish, because comparing with anyone in any situation is of no use, in my opinion, because each group or each person comes from a different perspective. So if I try to compare myself with another person, then it's of no use because we are completely different. But instead, if I look at it and see what is my end goal, what do I want to achieve, how far have I got from when I started, then I have a thing to compare against. I'm comparing against my benchmark, and that ultimately that's how all athletes and so on, they do it. They benchmark themselves more than benchmarking against others. That's what I found. Then you have the freedom to do what your heart tells you to do. And that's, then we self-judge, we decide. Yoram, go ahead.
Yeah, I will also comment on that, and I agree with Dimitri. I think the key is gathering reliable information from the ground at scale, right? And that's really, in my view, what is missing. I mean, I also worked with a lot of multinational lines, and they want to do a lot of things, but missing correct information. Customers want the right information from the ground, right? To know that, then they can make choices. Then each one of us can make choices. Do we want to get it or we don't want to get it? Do we want to change or we don't want to change? I think this is the missing part, and it's a tough part to get at scale, but we have an opportunity, I think, with the blockchain to create this somehow database.
Let me jump in here for only a second. Sorry, Christian and Peter, but I keep it very short. So I think there is a long history of ISO 14000, for example, where in the industry, relative improvements were the goal. And that's, of course, falling short of all the absolute measurement and benefits. And I think for consumer reputation, that's a really strong argument for business. It must be really properly measured, tangible, quantified results. And it's not so difficult in most of the environmental footprint. And as a second point, it needs to get into the bookkeeping of the companies. Not only financial data, environment needs to become part of the profit and loss of the future. So that's the only language that really flies in business.
Multi-layer accounting, 100%.
So, but that's also different than citizen science, and cleaning up litter and collecting that kind of information. So we're talking at different outcomes, right?
Sure, but it could avoid the need for cleaning up if the source is working properly from the beginning. If you have a cradle-to-cradle product philosophy,
Yeah, in the meantime, we have a lot of cleaning up to do, right? Till we can get to that point. And then we need people like Dimitri, Sean, attacking these other problems. Thank goodness that they're doing that and volunteering their time. Christian, and then Peter.
Right, thank you. I might follow up just a little bit on that, because one of my points is about the one of our catalyst proposals, the Cardano carbon footprint, and obviously for that, carbon emissions and electrical data is an important parameter, and it's also important that this is measured more or less correctly, or at least in a standardized way. I understand, in general how it's done in calibration and so forth in companies as well. I agree with Heinz there that you know, ISO 14001, you can set standards, but if you are just having a rough target that you may want to wish to achieve, you know, it's questionable if you actually achieve it. So with regards to targets, I think you're right, again, Melanie, that there's a difference between citizen science and between actually the real stuff we have to achieve. For the climate, there's an absolute target. We have a carbon budget, for example, and really we have tried this for decades now. If you don't adhere to delivering things according to this absolute budget, you don't get anywhere. And you have to hold people to account to achieving these targets. And these people are probably more likely governments and companies that have to deliver on this. And citizen scientists can deliver solutions and can do their things, and they're absolutely required. But they are probably going to be harder to be accounted for because not everyone has the time and technological expertise and so forth to put in all the data, and that's taking a lot of time too. That's partly where when we're talking about berry tree, for example, and why tree planting hasn't been monitored so far is because the technology wasn't easy enough, and it was possibly too expensive. So the blockchain may be able to help with that. But yeah, with the carbon footprinting, so just one point is what I've noticed already. We have done some initial carbon footprinting. We want to do this better now with a company, but data sources from the distributed network will be very important to get a better idea of what technologies are used around. And so if anyone here also is interested in the technology aspect and, for example, Arduino or kind of easy and cheap technological solutions that you can apply worldwide, such as Raspberry Pi computers and so forth, that run technical solutions to, for example, just compile electrical consumption of the different nodes and the different apps and services that people use around the world. That'd be quite interesting to get together from a carbon footprinting point of view. So I just want to put that out there. So if anyone is interested in putting something together on that, it's probably, I don't know if we're going to be funded, but I think the data points from as many nodes as possible in terms of energy consumption and real life data would be fantastic to get people involved in that, to send data and maybe compile that in one place on a website. So on the other aspect, my second point was just quickly, on Saturday, we have our second Twitter space. So I'm just going to announce that. So if anyone wants to have more of a communication with a wider audience, whether or not, I don't know who's going to participate, but if anyone wants to join that on Saturday at 1900 UTC, it's called the, what do we call it? Crypto sustainability Twitter space. It's every 2 weeks. So if you want to engage on your projects with a wider audience that may not be already involved in Cardano or something like that, you know, come around, join us, let us know, and you can be, you know, speaking about your projects and get more people in, because yeah, we are quite an expert audience here right now and everyone is already into it. So it's not always easy to get new people in, which is a big issue for our, you know, for our movement, if you like. So that's the second point. Third point, yeah, Madagascar was already mentioned. So our group, so the Cardano, not Cardano4Climate, climate neutral Cardano group, we are planning a tree planting project in Madagascar, and where we are going to work with a permaculture group. And I just wanted to throw that out there. And we are at the moment in the troubleshooting mode and milestone mode, trying to figure out what we have to accomplish that there. One big thing in there that always comes out, actually not just in this project, but is taxes and financial modeling. Because we are decentralized, and the problem always comes back to me, to haunt me, is like, how do you collect money? How do you distribute money? And how do we do that ethically and, you know, financially correct? So I'd really love to see also in this environmental groups, sort of expert groups that can help with that.
So Robert spoke on this at our Little Fish Foundation meeting on Monday. I've created a topic in Discord, drop the link in the chat. It's called SOFI, Social Environmental Finance, has to do with taxes. And Robert's really an incredible expert on multiple topics, Robert O'Brien. But that's a place where we can start looking for that piece. I joined in your Twitter's, I think it was Twitter space the last time. Very great. We've got to get that on our calendar. You know, these different meetups and different things. We'll get that sorted out, maybe with Heinz's help as well. Right now, we're just using a Google Calendar. But definitely, and feel free to advertise that in our Telegram chat and Discord.
Conversation space, and it's also hopefully drawing that whole picture that we want to be sort of the do-good blockchain. I mean, we don't want to be the only one doing it, but I think that picture of our community being valuable for the Cardano space as a whole and reaching out further, I think it's kind of where this comes in. So we don't want to just discuss our projects, and well, there's not enough to discuss all the time either. So it's important to get everyone together for that and get more community in. So the last point to make on my list here is 360 DLT, because I've sort of signed up to this, or Yoram and Heinz has talked me into it. And that's a big issue with regards to expertise and writing things down. So I'm going to help out a little bit, I think, on the risk and opportunity radars, and on specifically environmental aspects of that, with Heinz here and Yoram and so forth, particularly Michael Jordan here, who's here, the biggest basketball player, which is also in here somewhere. And one of the issues that comes up there, so we actually have to start writing things up. And I know we are building all these fantastic mirror boards and so forth, but at the end, it's great if we actually start more of a writing community, where aspects are sort of written down and then expertly evaluated and then shared with the wider network. I know there's various different outlets at the moment. You know, people put things on various different places on their stake pools or wherever, you know, but I think it would be valuable to create a common space where we kind of pull things together that are particularly on the environmental space that we compile. And I'm interested in knowing if anyone here, for example, or in the wider group, you know, anyone is interested in doing some more of that research and actually has time available, because I realize we always, I think a lot of people here are idea givers and they already have 50 projects. What we are looking for is kind of a couple of new people, maybe easier to find on Twitter spaces, I don't know, who actually want to get their hands dirty and start looking into things, and, you know, and address some of the main points we, for example, have on this mirror boards, and actually start looking at, for example, opportunities, risks, you know, for projects on Catalyst, and actually just start writing, like put down questions, you know, in which category we can add them here, and then people start collecting, doing some research, which basically means reading, looking at resources, and then people like myself and other people in the group can possibly review that and pinpoint and how we can do that in a little bit more standardized, structured way. So it's not just an opinion, but it actually is a fact-based kind of information base that we can say this information comes from these resources, i.e., and these are valuable resource, or sort of they are resources that come from an academic they're sort of vetted and you can trust in, so nobody catches you out if you cite those. And we don't sort of make up things, but we have actually an easy resource that we can go to and just say, well, look, this is the latest research here, and you know, that's what we can rely on for now. It might be outdated eventually, but then we can update that eventually too. But we need someone that kind of, or more people that come together and answer these questions and then do a bit of research and put them into a platform. And generally that's true. And then we have obviously Heinz here from DLT360, who's trying to do that on a more business-like platform. But I think for a start, generally, we kind of need that for our community, that not everyone has to do the research again, and everyone has access to it. And I was wondering if people are interested in that. In terms of contribution and writing things.
So I I almost see a meetup, you know, forming, and then we break out into different rooms, you know, experts on education, vetting, scientific information. Let's work towards that, you know, and if you feel good using this space and starting to break off into these expert areas, absolutely fabulous. If something else comes up, let's work with it. Does that sound good, Christian?
If we have a call out a little bit to students, like people, newcomers, you know, whatever, who have still a little bit more time at their hands, or, you know, who just look for a project to participate, because every project starts with research and, you know, actually compiling a good group of people, because I know that from my personal experience, not everyone likes to write. Not everyone, you know, people like to talk about things, other people like to write things down, and they have the mindset of sitting down and actually go to one thing and do one thing at a time. And then they come back with some great, you know, initial research that we can work with, and then we can metal down and address certain things. But not everyone is, you know, keen on that. So it's kind of good to find a group. Like we have developers, we need a group of researchers that kind of, you know, students, whatever, that are interested in doing that. And I think that would be a really good resource for community. And they could keep a database of resources, you know, papers, research papers that we can all refer to.
Right, Christian, if you allow me to jump in here for a second. So that's exactly what we already started rather successfully with the regulatory segment of the radar. So the opportunities and risks, we are starting typically for each opportunity or risk element with a literature review. So to identify what's the primary, let's say, literature available, what are the primary papers available, and what are the gaps where university students, which are the target to help here, could do actually valuable filling the gap research. So this is the offer I can make as let's say from a kind of professional risk and opportunity radar view, that all these BCBs, all the people that are here contributing, that's not a competing initiative, it's just an integrating initiative to show these things actually. And the ambition here is really that the latest available knowledge is clickable. And as we discussed a few days ago, our realistic goal is to update this kind of quarterly, but that only works if there is quite a large number of people contributing. So it's not a single shot static thing at the end.
Okay, I see things beginning, and it's like, oh my goodness. And we've got 18, 17 minutes to go, and Peter, Raz, Simon, and TiVo board. So I'm sorry to cut you off, Heinz. If I don't do that, I get in trouble. I'll be quiet now. And you can feel free to cut me off as well if I get rambling. Peter, your turn.
Thanks, Melanie. Thanks, everyone. Hey, thanks for coming, Alex. I didn't realize you'd be here today. I got a little bit late, and so I wasn't sure about any background you gave us on your role at Cardano Foundation. I love the foundation. I love its role. And yeah, so I have a question specifically for you. Is this idea that, like, what is the intent of the foundation to collaborate with communities like Cardano4Climate, and then in particular, like, how do you avoid picking like favorites, winners and losers? Like, there's a lot of, you guys have obviously, you know, made a formal collaboration or commitment with Veritree, and that's been really successful. But then obviously there's lots of other similar projects in the community that would love the same kind of like recognition and collaboration. Like, how do you go about vetting them, or like deciding which ones you're going to work with more closely? And then I guess a very practical question as well is, like, does the foundation have a separate stream of funding for those projects that you say, hey, this project, you know, this project Catalyst, but we really like this project, we want to seed fund it, so the foundation has some money for that kind of thing. And then lastly is more a question for a wider discussion here. Maybe we don't have time for it today, but you know, there's lots of overlapping projects in the space in the Cardano community, and our project Drawdown is making an effort to figure out which ones, where those ones are, and to collaborate and not compete. and say, you guys do this really well, you guys do that, we'll do this really well, we think we can do this really well, and we'll do this. And we've been having that discussion with Veritree and some other projects as well. But then if you go outside of the Cardano community, you see that there's a really wide swath of like climate change type projects out there right now, like, and on different blockchains. And so, you know, if you're a non-crypto blockchain person and you're looking to say, hey, how can I support climate change initiatives, you're going to get hit by this like 200 possible projects. And there is now like, you know, there's going to be competition for eyeballs and funding and this kind of stuff. And so that's one issue. And then what I'm seeing is that almost all projects have some kind of tokenomics, and we're working towards trying to get to carbon offsets. Say our token will represent this much carbon offset, and if you come into our project, get our tokens. So there's going to be like this battle of the tokens. And you know, I already foresee a need for some kind of like carbon offset token decentralized exchange. The decentralized exchange is focused just on like exchanging carbon tokens from like, we're not going to have one token to rule them all. So how
Peter,
can we create a common? So, yeah.
Sorry, I've been following about 5 different points, and after I get one hand up, I can't follow anymore. So questions for Alex. But then there's also the beginning. I don't know if we actually recorded it. We had Lucas here with the Blockchain for Good. And there's actually a component working on standardizing blockchain information. So this is happening. Can we allow Alex to address the questions you had about connection to the foundation?
Sounds good, thanks.
Okay.
Thanks for the question, Peter. And so the last one you mentioned about the plethora of climate-related solutions that are popping up across different crypto projects and all of that is, I think, a really cool conversation to get into, but maybe for another week, and maybe just offline as well, but definitely something to think about. And just before I jump in to answer your question, I'd really like to kind of pitch potential participation from community members with Innovate, which is the World Bank's kind of premier conference on climate-related topics. There's an aspect with technology and policy and things like that, and they've been doing quite a bit of work, especially with this thing with the carbon or climate warehouse. But I'd encourage everybody to take a look at this link. Maybe the Cardano community would be interested to kind of propose a workshop, for example. The foundation is also looking to do that. So just putting that out there. In terms of how we do partnerships, what the way that it currently runs is that we have a set of strategic objectives that are available, I think, online. I think on our website. If they're not, I can share them with you. But essentially, we have the set of strategic tactics that involve multiplier effects. And the reason we went with Veritree, of course, is it was a very interesting story on how this all kind of came together. But kind of fate, chance took control of these things, and you know, it happened that Climate Neutral Cardano also reached out to us about how they thought we could do things with climate impact and the Cardano blockchain. And the way that we assess Veritree is really on one, the art of the possible. So really looking at a potential partner that is doing something that hasn't been done on the Cardano blockchain, or hasn't really been done, or is a novel approach to tackling a problem in the blockchain space. These are the very high level points, but I can go into greater detail offline. 2 is really kind of the multiplier effect. So Veritree is an established company. They've been doing things for quite a while. I mean, 10tree has been planting trees for 10 years. And so they have this kind of gravitas that they know what they're doing, and they're an efficient partner that we could kind of work with very quickly, and the learning curve would be a little bit shorter. And what that means in terms of a multiplier is that they already have potential network effects, so that when they integrate with Cardano, it's a one-to-many integration, which means that, you know, the likes of Samsung picked it up, and they've got a couple of other potential partners that they're going to be working with. And that's really, you know, also what we're looking for. What we are also going to work on is a kind of clearer set of criteria that we can communicate with the community about what we look for in partnership projects. The stance that we have right now, kind of unofficially, is really supporting, you know, Veritree type projects. So, you know, out of the possible, high, you know, high potential for multiplier effects, and really projects that can increase the amount of transactions that the amount of value that gets transacted on the Cardano blockchain. So I mean, with Veritree, it's, you know, tokens every time people use their platform to kind of, you know, redeem trees, purchase trees, etc. Do we fund specific projects? So I don't know the ins and outs of paid partnerships, but that is a consideration. We kind of assess first and see whether, you know, these things kind of hold the kind of stuff that we're doing at, but really we're trying to look at novel ways and encouraging the community to go through catalysts to get a lot of these things done. It's not to say that we're just kind of abandoning the community to catalysts, but really that we want to be able to inject finances, not just in kind of, you know, parachute money into things like other foundations kind of tend to do. So these are questions that keep on popping up recently. And so what I'll do is maybe suggest to the team that we have some kind of clear communication about this approach to the community. So it could be very helpful, one, for community members when they approach us in terms of structuring their proposals, but two, also understanding where the funding options are. So I hope I answered your question, even though it was kind of long-winded, but yeah.
No, very much. Thank you, Rich. Yeah, and I appreciate that follow-up. That'd be great. Thank you.
I'm going to do a little pitch for Cardano and the work on preserving old growth forests, Alex. So maybe, you know, definitely if you can connect with Peter, it's something to look into. If you don't mind, it's very close to my heart. The forest I think about is called Ada Itzek, ADA''ITSX, and it's a forest on Vancouver Island that's being threatened to be clear cut. So, you know, one thing to plant trees, but we also need to recognize the value of the existing old growth forests that are under attack at this point. This forest and this particular area is known down in the Amazon. They know about this area as well. So I hope some sort of connection will come out of that. And we are getting close to time. Peter, I know you want to probably carry on. I'm sorry for cutting you off. Doesn't seem fair. We've got Simon and Tivo.
I just wanted to come back on a couple of the points raised earlier. Christian was asking about how to raise and transfer funds, and Raz was talking about different chains and carbon projects running everywhere. One of the ways I didn't envisage my project at the community level was there are companies and people paying for carbon offsets at the moment, so people are getting carbon footprints done. Could we take that money as a community to run a perpetual funding mechanism for getting community projects off the ground? So, you know, it'd be great to get a Cardano funded proposals to build the system, but how are we going to keep people coming in and spending the money? So you get your carbon footprints done. There's a project already been talked about today doing that. We then get the carbon offsets generated and tokenize that and get the money in for it. You then get that into your community treasury and set up a DAO and get the community voting on how to spend that money, putting in their own proposals. It seems like that's the full life cycle then of how we actually achieve something and actually start making a difference to communities.
Yeah, we want to create a sustainable system so that we don't need donations, that we create something ongoing. It is coming, and that's going to be another area that we can work on. I see it, I feel it coming. Little Fish deals with a lot of this. Gimbal Labs is working on tokenomics. There's NFTs going on. There's all these things happening. And if we can combine, like Peter said, there'll be less competition more cooperation, and we can start seeing a whole ecosystem forming around this, a sustainable ecosystem.
Yeah.
By ourselves, we won't make it, but together we can do it. Thibault, thank you.
There was a talk about a bit like at the platform where that we could all use, and where do we like put these measurements together. I didn't really get the idea of what kind of platform are used to, or what do we have as a solution set. But something I've been working past 2 weeks and thinking of, well, the platform will not come out that fast, but the idea of creating what we have in here, the idea scale platform, but making a community version of that, which is open source. And then we could add these, what we ask in the proposals, into the idea scale itself, or like the innovation fund. And then perhaps also when we have these research, what Christian mentioned, okay, we go into what is climate action and what measurements we want to check there. And so that the platform itself proposes and gives us the measurements or KPIs we could select between, something similar what SDG did. And that way, I think we could kind of combine our like collaborations together. If, but that is something we are working on a later stage, because right now we're at the way where I in that project is architecting that platform. So when do we get into the proposal stage is a bit of like end of the year, next year stuff, but maybe already having like a bigger teams to like, hey, you already work on that content, we already work on that side, we build an architecture that theoretically could work out. I'm just putting that out there.
Beautiful, because we have different metrics to measure and different problems to solve when it comes to climate. Absolutely fabulous. So let me get clear on this, Thibault. You're creating a parallel platform similar to Idea Scale, where we can create something and then we can take it back to Idea Scale as a proposal. Did I get that right?
Technically, yes, but if all goes according to plan, then Idea Scale will be abandoned and we just start using community ones to share the treasure.
Okay.
Quick one. Is that a question? Is that a proposal you've already got in? Because I've definitely seen one that somebody's doing that. Then it might be Social Design Academy or something like that, where they're looking at alternative ways of doing community voting on the Catalyst proposals. I don't know if it's funded yet, but I've definitely seen a proposal.
I have not done a proposal, and this is something I've been working on the last few weeks. Like people putting me on the spot. Okay, let's do this. Okay, let's do this now. And
I put you on the spot, didn't I? And here he shows up. What amazing work, though, Thibault. Thank you for doing this. It just makes me realize how much information we can generate as a community, and that it can be, you know, equally as scattered out, and that we can sort it in, and then we can create an action plan. We are coming up to our half hour, hour and a half. Amazing, just flown by like this. Yoram, maybe you want to wrap it up.
No, I think one thing that came along to me here today in this conversation, and just start again, to remind everyone, I mean, the next phase is really climate change, the collaboration. And that's what we need to think, is, you know, Peter touched it now, and the research that Christian is speaking about, and the brainstorming together today with all the different, you know, from Dimitri, the measurements to the SDGs at the other end. And really we need this collaboration, and that's the next phase that we trying to reach, in collaboration with the community and with the CNC, DLT 360, Sustainable ADA. We are all kind of together how we create kind of the next phase of making Cardano the blockchain that focus on climate change. With obviously the Cardano Foundation and all the ecosystem, in order then to interact also better with other outside the world and outside communities and so on. So that's a big focus for us, yeah, now and for this year. Just to
we need help. We need help doing this. We need help organizing. you know, we've got an event coming up, regenerative agriculture. Raz and Cole are jumping in to help with that, to help get the word out. Elias is here. Simon, we have an education piece coming up. Tyler's working with Tigane in Ethiopia on the beginning of a project. This is, Heinz has got his perfectly organized way of bringing things together, these different perspectives, and it's absolutely amazing. Uzgar is here from the Little Fish Foundation, Peter from Tridano, Christian from Carbon Neutral Cardano, Henning New coming in through Felix's, Afia calling in from Ghana, Tivo doing his Tivo board, Simon with a new baby, 4 weeks old now. Is that right? Lena or Layla? You're on mute. You're still on mute. Hang on.
I'd gone off looking to try and find this alternative
Link.
to Catalyst. Lena, it is.
Lena, okay, I'll have to remember that. And Lawrence here coming in with this lottery, and we're all waiting, you know, for voting results. You know, do we get funded or not? I'm at the point where I want to create something sustainable so that we don't have to go through this stressful situation, that we can work together and start creating things. A few of us are also working on a tokenomics program with Gimbal Labs, trying to figure some other stuff out, some other values that we might be able to tokenize. And Dimitri's idea on donating labor, this is really close to my heart as well. So it's coming together. So, yeah.
Maybe Alex,
that
welcome.
doesn't
How was
work
your
in every situation, though. Just I want to clarify that.
Yeah, of course, Dimitri. Yeah, just Alex, how do you feel the first meeting with us?
Very pumped. This is definitely been an awesome time, just listening, learning, and I think that working with everyone here and you know, outside of this circle will really be super valuable. And I think one thing that I'm also looking forward to is seeing how we can use the fact that both you and I, Yoram, are in Geneva, to see what we can do there in terms of the NGOs, the IOs that are international organizations, not input-output, that are located in Geneva. So I'm really looking forward to next week. I think I will be a regular at this meetup. Thank you so much for your time and ears listening to the random ideas I had. So thanks a lot.
Thanks for being here. That's what it is. You know, oh, Mother Tree in our young forest. I love that. We have our event coming up, Regenerative Agriculture in Cardano, February 24th. We also have the start of a circle around environmental issues. Yoram, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, we're after the hour, but yeah, I mean, you want me to show, just to show a slide, or?
Go for it.
No,
anybody that needs to drop off, go for it. We'll keep recording this. And then this is our idea on how to move into this next stage of collaboration. Do you, can you share screen?
Yeah, and I'm going to show directly the strange animal, as Heinz call it. Yeah, I can show my screen. Oh, yeah. Let me know if you see my screen, please.
It's coming. My internet's a little bit slow. There it is. The monster.
Yeah. So this is really the monster, the strange animal, whatever you want to call it, of kind of the mindset that worked into that. So there's so many things already happening, right? I mean, you know, with CNC group, with the different projects that we mentioned, Tridano, Little Fish, on different subjects. Sustainable ADA, Veritree, a little bit more mature projects. Carda Shift that is starting to collaborate with us. Actually, they reached out, and we're going hopefully to have a session with the community next week. What can we do together with them for Fund 8? Very interesting. Basically building tool transparency and traceability. We spoke a lot about it today. We need to add to the center research, as Christian mentioned today. Then we have the Cardano ecosystem, which doing already a lot, right? But so bring them in in a stronger way. All the different community, WADA, Swarm, Catalyst School, DLT360, everyone already doing part of it, so that we're all part of it. And then how we connect with external resources to improve. And from this animal a little bit, we go to a little bit more organized animal, a little bit kind of trying to put what key function that we can put together, right? So we are focused around the purpose, and the purpose is that we have a huge opportunity to impact an early stage technology, revolutionary technology, and make sure this technology will be technology for good, right? And for climate. And that's really our purpose. And it will benefit also the blockchain. So yeah, and here we are starting to build the thing that we can centralize the community, right? The tools for transparency, traceability, the different sector, the SPO, the events and meeting initiatives, education and research centers, all of that important things, and connect it in a stronger way, kind of to other external resources we need, and to other external communities, and stronger within what we're already doing. So again, we are working on a collaboration platform and not in a, just trying to compete. So we don't need 100 people to contact Cardano Foundation, for example, with different things. We can coordinate, always to give the key in a concentrated way, the key information, right? And participate them in the discussion. It will be more efficient, right? Calendar, joint calendar for everyone, right? I mean, we don't need 100 calendars, and so on and so forth. We can see the initiatives that are coming together with multi-community members. And the idea eventually will be, to kind of take the circle, the catalyst circle, and kind of build the Cardano climate circle. And so there's no, and in this presentation, what's nice, there's no Cardano4Climate. So it's not about Cardano4Climate. It's about, bringing everyone together and kind of trying to work together in order to achieve our purpose, which is, again, making climate something inherent in Cardano as an opportunity for Cardano, okay, for all the ecosystem. So that's kind of in few words, and what we are working on. Everyone is welcome. I would share the link for the presentation. Everyone is welcome to add ideas, to just contribute. It was done with community contribution anyway, and everyone is welcome to jump in. I'll give,
Yoram has a slide there from Ernesto. That might be good to show as well.
This is a very inspirational slide. I don't know if any of you have been. There is a link here to the video in after town hall in the governance week a couple of weeks ago. But basically said that we are now building a new model that we don't really understand yet. We don't know yet what is coming, and we cannot use what we know now to build the rules for this model. That's kind of was his message. And so we don't know how we all know that things, we all know when we all feel around that the things are not right? There's so many movements, social, political, environmental movements around us. So something new is coming. We don't know what it is yet, but it's coming. And and it will. So, and we don't know, we cannot plan the rules. We don't know yet what is coming, we cannot plan. So what we can do, we need to make sure from our side is that we will include in this new model nature and people, right? And to build the infrastructure for that. Anyway, and this is quite inspirational,
Can you finish with the last slide?
Yeah, of course.
And then we're gonna, this is another thing, we'll be working on our core values in this circle as a group. The name is up for discussion, the umbrella group that this becomes. We want to kind of fade into the background here and let this new future come forward and name itself. So we
Yeah,
started.
so this is then good.
Yeah,
please,
we
sorry.
started with climate change, the challenge. We're into climate change, the cooperation. Scott Poynton says, climate change is a failure on cooperation. We will not fail. And we're going to get to the point where climate change is going to be a part of our history. It's going to be a challenge that humanity faced and they succeeded in. That's our end goal. And we have a 10-year plan forming. We're not in here to get rich, get this solved quick. We've got many, many years and centuries of things gone wrong that need to be fixed and redone, rethought. We are coming to that point. So we're in it for the long haul. Anybody else want to finish up? We are going to be closing up because in a short while we're into town hall and I need to download this recording.
Just one quick question to you, all of you guys. Our ambition now to populate and elaborate the basic information for the environment dimension of the risk and opportunity radar. Is that a breakout room to this meeting, or how do we do that?
Good question.
That's a really
Simon.
good idea. Have we got time to put a breakout room in today's after town hall? Presume you can request one.
We could actually. I'm in charge of that, I think.
Thinking of the question, isn't it, to get everybody into it first?
Yeah, the only problem is I'm recording on my own computer, my little laptop, and it will take quite a while to upload. I haven't done that quite right. So do we want to do breakout rooms? I'm game. Let's go for it. Yes? Hands up.
What, now?
Yeah. Or next week. Can we plan?
You
for
want to do it
next
now,
week?
Simon?
Sorry, no, I was thinking in the after town hall later to actually get the wider community and sort of get them feeling what we're feeling.
It's a plus and a minus. I already did one breakout room in the after town hall, but of course it's the good thing is it's more broad, but the bad thing is you don't know who's joining. Mm-hmm. So it could be more efficient with, let's say, all the expertise that is here in this weekly meeting to make a breakout to this meeting and then have a certain status that we have elaborated and then share it with a broader community. I don't know, Christian, what your thought is to that?
Well, to be honest, today I have another meeting at 7. I won't be able to join the town hall, and I think my head's exploding already. So I do need another day for this.
So I would apply for a breakout room for next week's Cardano4Climate session, and then let's experiment with it.
Perfect. Yeah. Because I've let that go for a little bit. I wanted to connect with the rest of the community. I felt like we were isolating ourselves. Heinz, if you want to spearhead that next week, that's fantastic. We'll have a recording. We'll have the option to jump in there. Fantastic. And we can also work towards our weekly meetings that we do breakout rooms as well. We're already, we were up to 20 people today. So I feel like a lot of voices maybe didn't get heard. And it'd be nice to be able to break out into smaller groups and get those voices heard. So Tigane, you were so quiet. And how about you checking in? How did it go for you today? Sorry, I catch people off guard. You should be ready to unmute yourself at any point in time when I'm in charge.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, Tigane.
Yes.
Thanks, Heinz.
Yeah, probably I can update you what I've been doing in the last days. I was very busy burning diesel at sea. I really, not this time, but for years that I didn't follow up that sustainability and permaculture had moved to regeneration, and I was finding out about regeneration and soaking myself about all the principles and everything. And I have contacted the guys down at EM, and I'm trying to put some kind of, for example, a Zoom meeting with us, with officials down there, with agriculture and forestry officials and cultural and sports officials. And if we get there, then we will have at least we can have some questions. I'm finding out myself a little bit. We can't get the land, that much is a bit sure. And the permaculture teacher that I mentioned, he agreed to be part of our. He's not on Catalyst, so I have to onboard him on Catalyst. So that was
so
what I was doing.
this is it. This is, you know, bringing people onto Catalyst, into Cardano. That's the education piece. For those of you don't know, Tyler is partnering up with Tigane. We're going to talk a little bit about this project coming out of Ethiopia at our event, and we'll just be following it along. This is the beginning stages of regenerating a certain area. Very exciting, very exciting. And thank you. You know, like, it's like, I think about it, there's no way I could do this all by myself. I'm so thankful that Tigane and Tyler are taking this on, and we can take each one of these chunks and reconnect with each other. Anybody else? And Tyler, you've got the document. Do you want to just pipe in about that?
Sure. Well, that's great news, Tigane. I was hoping to hear that. What was your permaculture teacher's name again? Who he started the Strawberry Fields eco village? Yeah,
his name was Techafa. He didn't start. He was the consultant who was building, or the main teacher there. But
got it. Okay.
The permaculture was owned by a guy called Mark Conster. He was an Irish guy, but I'm informed that he sold it to a hotel developer and he left. And
couldn't resist.
A bit disappointed about that.
Well, the hotel will have a very pretty garden.
I hope he can. He actually sold it to I don't know, you know him, Haile Gebrselassie, the marathon and 10,000 champion.
Mm.
He had this. Selassie sounds familiar.
Yeah.
So Tyler, sorry, Tyler, do you want to do a little pitch for the event? How that's coming?
Sure. Yeah. So we'll be discussing more about the Ethiopia project, and we'll be doing a breakout room on it. And it would be great to have Techafa join in a panel that we're putting together. But we can talk about that afterwards again.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's our third conference that Cardano4Climate has hosted, and it's going to occur on the 24th, which is a Thursday at 5 p.m. UTC. And we're going to be just discussing regenerative agriculture. So it's something that, you know, we had at a breakout room on the first conference that was really inspiring. Just a lot of people jumped in. It seems like there's a lot of diverse expertise and interests within the very broad category of regenerative systems. So it's just been kind of a ball that's been picking up snow as we roll along here. And so we're focusing on it for the conference, and we're really trying to focus on, I feel like I kind of bridge these two worlds. I'm definitely more on the permaculture nature kind of side of things, but I'm also fascinated by Cardano and learning more about that over the years. And then so there's kind of like the nature folks and the more tech minded folks. And I feel like there's just a lot of fertile ground where we come together there. So the idea is to inspire permaculture, regenerative type folks to realize that there are tools within blockchain that can help to facilitate this transition from industrialized extractive agriculture to regenerative systems. And then likewise within the tech community, that regenerative agriculture really, like, it's a really challenging concept, but it's also one where the economic incentives are already sort of aligned. It's just about, getting this, farming tends to be a fairly regressive and also top-down type of enterprise in our world. So we're talking about building something that is pretty contrary to that, but the economic incentives already align. It's just different. We're talking about building perennial systems rather than, planting a bunch of seeds, dumping a bunch of chemicals, ignoring a whole bunch of externalities. And coming out with a saleable product at the end of 1 year. It's something that grows upon itself, but there's a whole lot of, you know, value in deepening soil and getting water to accumulate, because we need water to grow plants, to sequester the carbon,
And
etc. So
the carbon drawdown from regenerative agriculture is completely different. If you watch that, what is the Kiss the Ground? If you watch that movie on Netflix, you'll see that when the grounds are tilled every season for these monocultures, the carbon increases. And what we want to do is keep that on the ground and create the drawdown instead of this release. So completely different. It's a paradigm shift in the way we've been doing things.
absolutely, and it's also a return to, you know, traditional indigenous ways. Also, it's sort of, you know, if we think of humanity working with nature as sort of like the original lens for technology, there's you know, we've learned a lot over the years, but a lot of it is kind of relearning things and integrating them into the current way we do things. But it really is transformational. We're talking about, you know, when you go from an industrial style meat production to a regenerative where you're doing managed grazing and you have trees on pasture. You know, you can't just like put cows on grass and expect things to go well. But when you make that transition, you go from one of the greatest emitters of carbon, not to mention all of the other like horrible externalities that come from that. But and then to a really powerful carbon sink, especially in temperate regions. You know, it's not necessarily equipped for low-lying kind of equatorial areas all the time, but yeah, for temperate regions, it might even be the #1 thing we can do to pull carbon out of the atmosphere. And when you do that, you're growing soil, which means you can support more perennial growth, which is trapping more carbon, and you know the life is coming back, wildlife. I mean, bugs, could just go on and on and on and on.
Bugs come back.
That's the
you're
idea.
Not using pesticides. You have birds coming back. You have bees pollinating. There's so much. We've become so disconnected. And
and to get back to our earlier conversation with measurement, those are all things we can measure. You can measure like insect population and wildlife and the depth of wells and different things like that.
Yeah, citizen science, using an app to notice a new bird back that hasn't been around for a while, or seasonally, to see the increase in the salmon run. There's so many different ways of doing these metrics. Alexandra Morton from Not on My Watch, she's been a salmon scientist. She actually started out watching whales on the west coast of Canada and noticed the fish farms and the damage that they were doing, and the places where the fish farms are coming out, they've actually scientifically calculated that the salmon run is returning. Okay, you guys, I see we're gonna drop off. We're gonna finish this. I hate to say goodbye, because we could keep going on for a long time. Thanks so much for being here. And I'm going to shut down the meeting. Okay, is that all right? We're all good with that? Ciao for now. Okay, see you at Town Hall. Thanks, Nori. Thanks for everybody being here.
See you all soon.
Okay, bye.